Hello, hello, hello. There I am. I was wondering where my voice was for a minute. Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McCrae here. Welcome to episode 40 of McCrae Live. Episode 40 of McCrae Live. It is hard to believe we are already up at 40 episodes here on McCrae Live. I had all the faders and the volumes on the incorrect positions, which is why I was like, wait a minute, where's my voice? I can't hear myself. I can hear myself now. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is, what is it? Fuck, the days are bleeding into each other, aren't they? It's Thursday, April the 9th, 2020, 11:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, like I said, this is episode 40 of McCrae Live, and I saw an article yesterday that just grinded my gears. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, are you, look, nothing surprises me anymore. There isn't anything that surprises me necessarily. I just sometimes don't see the point. I don't see it. Even from a business perspective, I sort of sit back and I think that I wouldn't feel that anyway, listen, I'm talking about The Others, okay? And according to Deadline, which is a pretty reputable source, they are reporting that a remake of the 2001 horror thriller classic, The Others, starring Nicole Kidman, produced by, I believe, her then husband, Tom Cruise. I think they were together in 2001, right? I think. Anyway, he helped to produce it, is being remade. Or at least a remake is in the works. Now, nothing has been greenlit yet because I believe the production company got all the things up here. What do we got? Sentient Entertainment, I believe, is the company that won the rights. There was, I believe, a bidding war, and they won the rights. But let's go over the article on Deadline and see what they have to say, because this is one of those things where I'm just kind of like, really, guys, really? Let's see if we can do this here. I want to be able to bring that up and read some of that for you. So 1 second here. Let me just bring it up and read that for you. I'm going to just compartmentalize this, do this. Hope you guys are doing well, by the way. Okay, so this is what Deadline has to say in regards to the remake of The Others. You ready for this? Okay, here we go. So, and there's some names in here. Hopefully I'm going to get the names pronounced correctly. But anyway, in a competitive situation, LA-based Sentient Entertainment has won the remake rights to Nicole Kidman's horror movie hit, The Others, which, by the way, is one of my favorite, not just horror movies of all time, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I saw it in the theater back in 2001. I saw it twice, actually. I saw it with my mother when it first came out, and then I think a few weeks later, I saw it with my buddy Bruce. And I love this movie. I like this movie way better than I like The Sixth Sense. I don't not like The Sixth Sense, but this is a bit of an unpopular opinion. I kind of feel like The Sixth Sense is a little overrated. It's just, I'm not saying it's not a good movie, and I'm not saying, there's a lot of things to really like about that movie, but I really like The Others more. I do. For me, it's better. And I think The Others sometimes gets, maybe not so now because we are very far removed, but when The Others came out in 2001, it was only 2 years, removed from 1999's The Sixth Sense. And because they have, spoiler alert, but come on, if you haven't seen the movies by now, they have similar endings in the sense of, oh, it's actually this and not that. And The Others, I remember when it came out, it was kind of like, it's getting a bit of a bad rap because, it's just a Sixth Sense. I'm like, nah, man, no. No way. Not in my book. Not in my book. I like it better. I think it's a great movie. And the mood, the atmosphere, the slow burn. Anyways, we'll talk about that in a second. Talk more about that in a second, I should say. So yes, in a competitive situation, LA-based Sentient Entertainment has won the remake rights to Nicole Kidman's horror movie hit, The Others, which scared up north of $200 million globally when it was released in 2001. Next year will mark the 20th anniversary of Alejandro Amenabar. Am I saying that right? Forgive me, my Spanish is non-existent. But anyway, we know who we're talking about here. Timely self-isolation tale about a war widow who hides her children away in an isolated mansion due to a rare disease characterized by photosensitivity. The arrival of 3 mysterious servants unlocks the house's terrifying secrets. Kidman was Golden Globe and BAFTA nominated for her turn, and writer-director Amenabar Alejandro. I'd rather just say that. That rolls off my tongue a bit better. Won Goyas for Best Director and Screenplay. I believe that's a Spanish. I think I'm saying that right. Goyas, Goyas. Perhaps I'm not. That is a Spanish film awards, I believe. And I believe this was the first English film without any Spanish in the movie to win Best Director and Screenplay, if I'm not mistaken. Sentient struck the lucrative deal with Film Shark's subsidiary, the Remake company, and Atletico Madrid president Enrique Cerezo's Video Mercury. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Again, my Spanish, I mean, you know, I'm a Canadian up here, so I'm doing the best I can, folks. Cerezo originally acquired the film rights when he purchased how do you pronounce that? Saugacine, formerly owned by Canal Plus. I'm butchering that. I know I am. Why am I? Saugacine from. Let's look up the saying of that word together, shall we? I want to get that right because some reason I feel like I might be having one of my brain fart days. I was up really late last night posting that video. Huh. Let's see here. It is a Spanish word. Okay, so maybe I'm not saying it right. Maybe I am, but I think you guys are following me. Hopefully, I'm doing a good enough job for all my Spanish peeps in the chat and watching after the fact. But nonetheless, let's go back. Where am I? Where the fuck is Deadline here? There we are. Deadline. Anyway. Okay, there we go. The plan, let's get to the fucking plan. The plan is to reinvent and modernize the story. And we understand the project is already attracting significant interest from A-list talent and studio backers. The film will be produced by Sentient's Renee Tabb and Christopher Tuffin. As well as Alawen Entertainment's Lucas Akoskin. Manager and producer Tabb, who credits include David Cronenberg's Maps to the Stars and Jennifer Garner's action thriller Peppermint, was recently Emmy nominated for FX limited series Feud, Betty and Joan. Sentient's current slate includes Sierra, E1's feature Losing. Okay, look, this is like, folks, I could go on here, but I think you get the point. I gotta get my water out. I'm starting to fucking lose it here. By the way, that last thing was E1 featuring Losing Clementine, which has Jessica Chastain attached, action thriller, Alphas, which is set to star Sam Worthington, and Taken director Pierre, Untitled action Netflix thriller. Sorry, I'm this is how this affected me last night, and it's affecting me in real time because I'm reading this and I'm thinking, I don't give a fuck who's attached to this movie. Okay, I really don't. Okay, listen, I never want a movie to fail. I never do. But I really don't see the point in this. Is there a demand for the Others remake? Listen, I know rights expire and the opportunity to obtain those rights come up. I understand that. I get that 100%. I really do. I get it. But this is honestly how it affected me. I'm reading this, and again, I was up late last night, and that's why I'm kind of not all there, because I was uploading the video. breaking down, can Michael Myers drive? All that kind of shit. And I started to read this afterwards. I was up till like 3:30 in the morning, and I was reading this, and I was having the same sort of reaction because in my mind I'm thinking, and look, it's not that it won't be good or it's not going to be good. I always want movies to succeed, but is there a demand for this? Is this necessary? The Others is one of those movies that because of the simplicity of the nature of the movie, because it's so good, it's timeless. It really is timeless. It's one of those movies that, this sounds like an overused cliche, but really doesn't need a remake because there's nothing about the original that you could do better today. If you were to remake that movie. And of course, that's a great catalyst for this next part here. And where is this next part? Okay. Tab told us, one of the, who is Tab again? He's one of the producers, managing and producer Tab. He's one of the producers. Says, I am honored to be able to work on my favorite horror film of all time, The Others. You should be ashamed. And to bring this reimagining to the big screen for new audiences. So it's a reimagining. Okay, so what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that the basic foundation of The Others will be there, but they're reimagining it in a very different way. So it could be a very different movie, which could work totally 100. It could be different enough that you go, okay, like it doesn't feel like you're stepping on any toes. It's so different that it's just like, do you like A or do you like B? Nah, I'm going to stick with A. And you're not really mad about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not really mad about it. Like, I was a little miffed at the remake of Black Christmas, but not because of... I was more miffed because it felt too pretentious. It felt too condescending. It felt too on the nose. It didn't feel organic. It felt synthetically created for the sake of, pushing an agenda. And that's something that and again, I'm not trying to get all conspiracy on you. I just felt that they did themselves a disservice. It didn't feel like it felt like it was created for the sole purpose of the political angle and edge and slant that it had. And I think it was. And I feel that they did themselves a disservice in that film. So I was a little miffed because of that. But at the end of the day, it's a shadow of what Black Christmas really is. So it's like, it doesn't really bother you. Like, there's not any long-term bothering effects kind of thing. It's not like Halloween 2007, where that stays with you for a while, because there's a lot in that movie that is similar. That's not, I mean... Is it a reimagining? I mean, it is to a point, but it's more remake than it is reimagining, in my opinion. And, this could be, it's a reimagining. So it's like, I'm just hoping that if it's bad, it's so reimagined that I'm just like, whatever. Like, it's not The Others. That's not The Others. That's like some great value brand of The Others. Do you know what I mean? And that's sort of how I'm gonna think of it if it's really shit. Anyway, and bringing this reimagining to the big screen for new audiences, it is almost eerie and uncanny how timely the themes are today: self-isolation, paranoia, and fear, and of course the intense desire to protect our children and ourselves from harm. We look forward to unraveling the layers behind lead character Grace, whose pain and demons draw viewers into a truly compassionate journey. Well, here's something else too. You better make sure that your narrative and that your story and characters are so fucking compelling that it is brilliant. This movie needs to be brilliant, not good or pretty good. This movie needs to be brilliant. Why? Because we already know how this movie ends, and you don't. So the journey has to be very compelling. Unless you're going to reimagine it so much that the ending is, changes, and it's not about a family who doesn't know that they're dead, and it's about it's a complete, unless you're doing a complete 180. But if you're still keeping the basic kind of premise there, we already know how this ends. So that journey for us to get to that destination better be brilliant. Because if it's not, I have a better movie that I can watch. And it's called The Others. And it's from 2001. And it is brilliant. That journey and that destination is brilliant. So if you're going to remake this, and because The Others is not a high octane, where are you guys? Let me bring you guys up here. Ba 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 dee 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 dee. Let me just I want to make it a little it's a little bright for me, bright on my face. I'm still not awake yet. Here's the thing. If like the original The Others is all story and character. It's all story and character. And it's slow, it's that slow burn, it's mood, it's atmosphere, it's suspense, it's theater of the mind. That's what the original The Others is. Theater of the mind. It's brilliant. It's simplistic, it's simple, it's basic, it's Hitchcockian. Do you know what I mean? And it's brilliant. So modernizing that story, you can't do that without reimagining it. You almost can't do it without changing the fundamental foundation of The Others. And then is it really The Others then? Well, it is. It's a modernized version of The Others, but then it's not The Others. Then it's something else. It's like how Black Christmas 2009, it's not Black Christmas. It's a movie, you should have called it Sleigh Girls, and then we would have been like, oh yeah, it's a movie that's kind of like Black Christmas. Cool. Okay, whatever. But to call it The Others, I'm just worried that it may suffer the Black Christmas fate. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that there will be a political slant to a remake of The Others. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying in the sense that they may shoot themselves in the foot and do themselves more of a disservice than anything else. When maybe just create something. I mean, if you're reimagining it it all depends on the degree of the reimagination. If it's a complete 180, then just call it something else. Just make it an original thing that is all your own. That's not The Others. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you're going to go that far, go all the way. Why stop now? Do you know what I mean? Like, just do it. I mean, you're almost there. Just take that one extra leap. Because if you're not, and like I said, you're going to have, it really is a remake. I mean, it's reimagining to a degree, but it's a clear remake as well. It better be brilliant. It really better be brilliant, because I don't see the point. I already know how this movie ends. So the second your movie begins to the second that the third act begins, better be, have me hooked. Like, wow, I am so, I'm so enamored with the pacing and the character, and I mean, it's not like it was made that long ago. I mean, granted, it's almost 20 years, and 20 years is enough time to have a couple of movies that are the same, right? You can have a movie and then a remake. I mean, we have seen that. It's not unprecedented, but you have an Academy Award-winning actress in Nicole Kidman who was brilliant. Like, it's not like it's from 1940 that nobody's heard of when you're trying to remake it. It's one of the most iconic horror films in history that is brilliant. And it just feels like, and then you're going to and things like this worry me. And things like this worry me. Deadline says here, I am honored to be able to work on my favorite horror film of all time, The Others. And again, if anybody from the production ever sees this, which they won't, but if they do, it's not personal, okay? So I want this dude's movie to be great. I do. I'm just, fool me once, shame on me, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right? I mean, we all know how these things generally go. So I'm skeptical. Right? But it's not like I hope he fails. Of course, I hope he doesn't fail. But he says, and to bring this reimagining to the big screen for new audiences, it's almost eerie and uncanny how timely the themes are today. Self-isolation, paranoia, and fear, and of course, the intense desire to protect our children. And it's like, so are you exploiting that? Are you capitalizing on that? I mean, this is relatively new, so you must have an idea. I mean, don't tell me that you're just getting this idea now. I mean, listen, this thing that we're going through right now with COVID-19 is really only, at least for us here in the West, a couple of months old. This shit with the Others remake has been in, the works for months, going back to last year, no doubt. So there's got to be an idea that he has in his mind of what he wants to do. And if it is his favorite horror movie of all time, of course, that doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. It doesn't. But if it is his favorite horror movie of all time, I hope he has the objective awareness to be able to understand those nuances of what made the original so great, of why people like that movie so much. And if you're going to just modernize it and make it a supernatural, it's not even The Others isn't a supernatural film. It's a psychological thriller is what The Others is. I mean, there's supernatural elements to it because, you realize, oh, they're dead and, and there's some ghostly, but I would it's not like The Conjuring or something like that, or Insidious. It's not that kind of a supernatural film. It's more like The Sixth Sense in a way. And I understand that again, I mean, it's a matter of semantics to a point, but there's so much more going for The Others than just anything ghostly. And my worry is that, if you want to reimagine it and bring it into the 21st century, it is a 21st century movie, but bring it into the 20s, let's say, the 2020s, I'm just concerned that it's just going to be another run-of-the-mill, stereotypical, horror movie that we've seen 1,000 times before. And you know what? I'll see the trailer and I'll go, yep, that looks like a cool shot. Yeah, that's a kind of a nice thing. Cool. Meh. I'll wait for VOD. I have very little confidence in this kind of thing anymore. I mean, John Carpenter is right. He's right. And that should never stop people from making horror movies. And nobody goes out to make a horror movie with the intention of making a shitty horror movie. Nobody does that. It's not like I believe these guys are intentionally trying to ruin anything. That's not how the business works. But, I mean, horror is tough to do. And Carpenter was right, when he said that, and I'm paraphrasing, but you've heard me say this, that most horror movies suck. Most do. Most are garbage. And then there are some that are pretty good. And then there are even fewer that are really good. And then there's a select few that are brilliant. Brilliant. You know what I mean? And it's a tough thing to do. So, when I read this, it doesn't get me excited for the reasons that I've explained here over the last 23 minutes. And but I'm cautiously optimistic. I want these guys to succeed, but I just don't see the point. I don't see the point of remaking this movie. Now, again, it hasn't been greenlit yet. There may not even be a script yet. They may just have a bit of a treatment or an idea. We don't know how far along they are. They've just obtained the rights to be able to move in that direction. So, it's not going to be this year. It might not even be next year. But certainly this is the direction they're going, and it disappoints me because the original film is so good and it's so timeless. I mean, it's the way that movie is directed, the way it's shot, the mood, the atmosphere, the slow burn. Those kids are so believable, the tremendous believability. And because it's a very theater of the mind movie and all of the supernatural elements to that film are very much, theater of the mind, very much, bumps in the night, right? And what you think you see and around the corner, and the house is a character in and of itself in the movie, and you are drawn into it by Kidman's performance and these kids and these strange servants that show up, and when you watch the movie again, you pick up on the details that are there, the symbolism that is there, the nuances that are there when she meets her husband, in the fog, and he comes back and he never says anything to her. And then if you watch it again and you pick up on, oh my God, yes, of course he's dead. Oh my God, what's going on? And he knows it, and he's perplexed on why she doesn't know it, that she's going on as if everything's okay, because she murdered her children. Spoiler alert, but come on, it's 19 years old. It's all character and story. That's what The Others is. And you have a great setting that it just speaks for itself, but it's all about living vicariously through these characters. It is not a supernatural movie in the ways that we've come to know supernatural films today. There was a supernatural boom in the world of horror in the mid-2000s, primarily thanks to films like, Paranormal Activity and there's other films in and around the mid-2000s that really launched this, horror moving in a supernatural direction. I'm not saying there was never a supernatural horror film prior to the mid-2000s. Obviously, there were, like Stir of Echoes in 1999. That was a great movie. Of course, they existed. But in terms of a bit of a boom in the world of supernatural horrors, definitely we saw that in and around that time. And so, it just makes me think that, I just don't understand why. I mean, I understand why. I mean, I get the business of show business and why, but it's like, why? Can you do it better? I mean, listen, in my world, when it comes to remakes, how I justify it is a remake is done. And again, it's a matter of semantics. We can say reboot, reimagining, remake. A reboot and a reimagining is a remake. Right? It's all a remake. It all falls because you are remaking the movie in the literal sense, but you're remaking it this way as opposed to that way, or this way as opposed to that way. It's all a reboot, and a reimagining is a remake. Okay. But a reboot adds that bit of extra sort of thing there. And a reimagining is more specific than a reboot and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to remaking movies in and of themselves, I always ask, okay, and there's something he said there which ordinarily the principle of what he said I would agree with, but it doesn't feel, I don't want to say he's lying because I don't think he is. It just feels sort of, I don't know. I don't buy it. It just feels kind of like this. You would have done this regardless of what was going on. And it's just sort of like, oh, this is even better. And it just feels kind of chintzy to me. But I always say that when thinking of doing a remake, can you remake the movie better today because you have the technological resources and technology to do it better? Because technology and effects were are a very big part of that original film, but they're very dated now, like very dated. And I'm not talking about Poltergeist type dated. That film still holds up. Why? Because of characters and story. Brilliant. So you can look the other way when you see a little bit of a matte painting or, something. It's not a big deal. So do we have the technology to do it better today? That's one thing that I think about. The other thing is it more relevant today, right? Is it more relevant today? You know what I mean? Maybe when the original movie, whatever movie that is that we're talking about, came out, 30 years ago or whatever, it was ahead of its time. We've seen that kind of thing. That sometimes happens. And now, because of what's going on in the world and things like that, it's more relevant. Okay, and maybe people would get it. But usually that's because when it came out before, it didn't make an impact. Usually that's because when it came out 30 or 40 years ago, it failed at the box office, or nobody saw it, or very few people have heard of it because it wasn't relevant. Do you know what I mean? It's not because it was a $200 million film at the box. The Others was hugely successful. It's one of the greatest horror films. It's like, so it's kind of like, I don't understand. I mean, yes, in terms of what's going on in this moment in a vacuum, yes, I guess isolation and fear and protecting your children is more prominent, at this moment, but it's only been that way for the last 6 to 8 weeks here in the West. So let's not pretend that you thought of that this happened and you thought, oh, you know what? We should remake The Others. No, you were thinking about doing that long before COVID-19. So don't try to pretend like, not that he is, but I'm just saying it makes it feel like And because things are, and because no, this just fell out. You just fell ass backwards into this, and it just sounds good. It just kind of, it's a nice, it's good, it's good cinematic rhetoric, right? And because of everything that's going on now in the world, and people are feeling fear and isolation and things like that. And when I'm writing, man, it's gonna hit, and it's like. Yeah, that's not, no, you were thinking, you probably have a script or a treatment or an idea before this anyway, and I don't know. I just don't, I wish them luck, and I sincerely do, because a rising tide raises all ships. It does, but it's not necessary. And I don't mean that like isn't a fanboy saying, that's not necessary. Like it really is when you break it down. It's like, I don't understand why. And again, I'm always talking from the artistic perspective. But it's kind of like, I just, and I have no confidence. I shouldn't say that. I have very little confidence that they will do it right or do it justice, because if you're going to reimagine it and modernize it, then it's not The Others, because The Others it's like the original Halloween. The Others has a very specific identity to it. They have a very specific identity, or it has a very specific identity and ingredient. And that doesn't lend itself for modernization in a more sensational way. That's what I'm worried that the remake is going to be more sensational. We're going to see spirits, or we're going to see, which would make no sense because the ghosts in the house are real people. See, that's the brilliant thing. So hopefully they know that and understand that this isn't a supernatural movie. We are, the main characters in the movie are the ghosts, right? And the ghosts think the house is haunted, but the ghosts actually in the movie are the real living humans. It was a brilliant script. It reversed it completely. And my voice is cracking because I was up so late. Good luck, guys. I mean, but I just don't, I really don't think it's necessary. No remake is necessary, Dave. No, I understand that. But this is one of those things where it's like, I really don't get it. Like, I really don't get it. You think you could do it better? I mean, isn't that really? You think you could do it better? Do you know what I mean? And that's it. Like, usually people want to remake movies because they can do it better, right? Like it's more relevant today, but all the relevance he's talking about, as I said, is just 6 weeks old here in the West. He was thinking about doing this long before that. I have no doubt. So what's his excuse then? What was his excuse in December and in January or early last year or whatever? What was he thinking then? What would be his reason then? It wasn't because of COVID-19 and how everybody's fearful now. No, it wasn't because of that, because this is only 6 weeks old. So what was it? What can you bring that isn't already there? I don't know. That's how I feel about it anyway. Let's go over to the chat room and see what you guys are talking about. Man, The Others, the original Others, it is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It is it's more of a psychological thriller, mystery, kind of thing, and it's so, but and like I said, that movie is all script and story, or all story and characters, I should say. And the journey you're on from the first act to the second act to the third act it's so compelling. Like, it's so interesting, and it's like, and that burn, man, like you are one of the children, right? It's like The Conjuring in that sense, that you are one of the kids in the family. The way it's directed and the way it's shot and the way it's executed, they put the audience in the same position as Nicole Kidman and her kids. You are Nicole Kidman. You are one of the kids there. So you're living vicariously through them, and you're just as perplexed of what's going on, and you're convinced that they're alive and living there. And that's why it works. It's like, oh my God. And when it happens, you are just as shocked as they are. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant. I just don't see how you can do it any better. I really don't. But that's me. That is me, folks. That is me. Let's go to the chat. Let me see if I just want to make sure I didn't miss any super chats. There was one that came in. Intel Wild. Thank you, buddy. Says, Dave, have you ever watched Session 9? Yes, love it. Very underrated in my opinion. Lots of mood and atmosphere. Slow burn galore. Yes, I have seen the movie Session 9. When I worked at a video store years ago, I used to recommend it. in the early 2000s, I used to work at a video store, Rogers Video here in Canada, in Canada. We had, it was like our version of Blockbuster. Now, we did have Blockbuster up here too. We had hundreds of them. But we also had Rogers Video, and I worked at Rogers Video in the early 2000s, and I would recommend Session 9 all the time. It is an acquired taste because it is a very slow burn, and it is very psychological and cerebral, and not cerebral in the sense that it's like really deep, but I just mean the sense it's not a lot of action. Like it's a very sort of very slow burn kind of movie. And I know that some people would come back in after my recommendation and be like, I wasn't a big fan, a little boring. And then others would come and be like, oh dude, I loved it. You know what I mean? So it is a bit of an acquired taste, but yeah, I absolutely love that movie. I haven't watched it in a while. I have it on VHS though. I don't have it on DVD. Is it even out on DVD, Blu-ray? I'm not sure. Tigerman says, Dave, did you like the movie Skeleton Key? I can't really remember. That's the one with Goldie Hawn's daughter there, Kate Hudson. And I saw that in the movie theater when it came out in 2004, 5, somewhere around there. 6 maybe? No, 4 or 5. I can't remember that movie that well because I literally have not seen that movie since I saw it in the theater. So I would have to watch it again. I'm not entirely sure. I would have to watch it again. Let me move this over here and change camera angles and bring... Yay! How you fuckers doing? Corey Dean says, haven't seen Session 9 in a while. Yeah, it's been years for me, man. It's been years for me. What do you guys think, though? Like, what do you guys think about them remaking The Others? Are you fans of The Others? Are you, do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you old enough to remember it? I mean, it's only 19 years old, but who knows? There could be somebody in here watching that's 17 that's never even heard of it. I have no idea. What do you guys, I'm looking up there again. What? So that always happens, right? When I make the switch, I always, inevitably do that for like the first 30 seconds. Are you looking forward to this? Like it really is in the preliminary stages and it's very early to, really make an assessment. And like I said, I hope they do succeed. I really do, but I just don't see why that movie, because it's see, here's the thing. What it sounds to me is instead of, and again, I'm not saying that he's not being truthful, but I think what really is the reason why this, these guys want to remake it, or this guy in particular, is because it's his favorite horror movie. And that's why he wants to remake it. And then with everything going on with COVID-19, it's just like, oh, it's very relevant today. It's like, yeah, no, you wanted to do this before. That's why. And it's like, why? Why would you want to do that? Like, again, it's a bit rhetorical because I do understand why. But can you really do it better? And anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Lauren Downing says, I love The Others. Leave it alone. I agree. Totally agree. Michael Myers fan 1001 says, have you ever gotten sick of watching Halloween? No. And I was about to do it again. No. And that's primarily because I don't watch it really throughout the year. I really only watch it around Halloween time. And years ago, I used to have to bust out my VHS or my DVD and watch it. But AMC has been playing marathons of Halloween movies in and around Halloween time now for quite a few years. So I don't even have to, now there's commercials, but I'm not gonna say never, but I rarely will pop in Halloween on like a Thursday in June. Like I just don't, I've seen it so many times that I just don't need to watch it until it's Halloween time or it's on TV. So I wouldn't say I'm ever sick of it. I mean, I know the movie off by heart, all the dialogue and all that kind of jazz, like, many of us probably do. But no, I don't get sick of it. Not yet, anyway. Corey Dean says, I'm just sick of remakes altogether. Jason Knight says, I love The Others and I don't understand why. Yeah. I mean, again, like from a bit, like we get it, from a certain perspective, but The Others is one of those movies just so good. It's so good that's like, we're going to reimagine it and modernize it. Why? Like the reason why it works is because it's timeless. You reimagine it and modernize it. You've dated it. You've then dated it. And the reason why The Others works is because it isn't modernized. It's not a 2001 movie. Listen, eventually the production value will maybe look a bit older, but it's not it's not, and I understand it takes place in the 30s, in that, I believe it's the 30s, in that sense. Like the actual story and the narrative takes place in the 30s, but it's not dated in the sense of that the crux of the narrative is reliant on anything that would be modern today. And I understand that, tuberculosis is a big part of that story. And of course, we haven't been there in a long time. It's not that there aren't certain things but it's a period piece. I mean, you're watching, that story in that time frame. And it's not heavily reliant on those things. There's subtexts that are there to help just kind of drive it forward. It's so reliant. It's reliant on so many other things that are timeless and certain techniques and filmmaking horror techniques that are just brilliant and old school Hitchcockian shit. And it's just awesome. And you want to modernize that? You want to date that sucker? Yeah, I don't know. But you know what? Like I said, prove me wrong, man. Prove me wrong. VP says The Others is solid. It is. It's a very specific type of movie. It's not a slasher movie, right? It is and again, I sort of pump the brakes a little bit to go as far to even say it's a supernatural movie. I mean, it is to a degree, but there's so many unsupernatural things that are going on in the movie. Really, the only supernatural thing that happens in that movie, from what I can remember, that's obvious, would be the ending, would be the realization that they are dead. That's it. That would be it, because everything else in the movie is so grounded. It's so grounded, and so you're not sure what's going on, and sometimes you're like, is there a reasonable explanation for that, or is there what? It's so great. It's so great. It's so great. Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. Let me see here. Oliver Mercer says, how about if we're living in Ghost World without us even knowing it? Ooh, well, yeah, who knows, man? My nan's the only one I know who didn't get the others, bless her. Oh, that's too bad. It's crazy. It was such an interesting, it was just so cool. It was such a cool reveal. I remember at the end of the movie, sitting in the theater with my mom back in August of 2001 and being like, no way. Fuck off. I thought it was great. Edred77 says, Dave, thoughts on The Prince of Darkness? Do you think the ambitious concepts Carpenter was going for can be done any better today? Well, Prince of Darkness I haven't seen in a long time. But I think there's a possibility there. Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. Again, I haven't seen that movie probably in 20, 25 years. It's not one of Carpenter's movies that is in my Rolodex. And funny enough, even They Live is not playing a lot. I'm more of my go-tos for Carpenter obviously are the original Halloween, The Fog, The Thing. I actually quite like the remake he did of, it's not great, but I don't know. There's something about it I like. Village of the Damned. I like that movie. I like In the Mouth of Madness, which was shot up here, by the way. And so, Prince of Darkness, I've only seen maybe once or twice. But thinking back to what I remember of it, yeah, it could. Absolutely, it could. It could. Any better? I don't know. I mean, I think there's more of an opportunity, than the others. I think anyway. Matthew Hatzimalius. Dave, thoughts on Mel Brooks, History of the World Part 1. Have you seen The 12 Chairs? I have not. Mel Brooks is a legend, a comedic legend. And Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs. And people often refer to Spaceballs when they talk about Mel Brooks, and that's not really fair, because his filmography and his comedic genius goes beyond anything Star Wars spoof. You know what I mean? That was like a movie he did just for fun, and it didn't do very well, unfortunately. And I think it was primarily because it was 4 years after the last Star Wars movie, so it was kind of like, people didn't really care, but it did very well on VHS and TV and things like that. History of the World Part 1. I don't know if I've seen that. I've heard of it. And 12 Chairs I haven't seen. I know that. But Mel Brooks is amazing. I mean, a comedic legend, 100%. DMT Infinity says, Dave, tell us a joke. I don't know too many jokes, to be honest with you. I'd have to think of one. Let me see. Corey Dean says, let's be honest. Most of Carpenter's filmography is great, but there's a couple I don't like. Well, I actually would go sort of a step further than that. I think most of Carpenter's filmography is fine. And then he has a couple that are brilliant, that are really good, like the original Halloween, The Thing. I think The Fog is great. I don't think The Fog's brilliant, but I think The Fog is underrated. Escape from New York, I think, was really good in its concept. It's a little cheesy now. It's very B-movie, but I think it's good. It's good, and I think you could. That's a movie you could remake. You could remake, again, it might be blasphemous for some, but that's a movie. Like, here's the thing, right? When you think of Escape from New York, and you think about modernizing that movie and bringing that into the 21st century, but I mean, like, doing, making it, really, that's something I think of and I go, I can see that. Like, you look at the original, you look at the concepts, you look at the film, you watch the movie, you go, I totally can see how this could, not, I mean, it's all in the execution, right? But could benefit from a remake. I don't know if you guys agree with that. I'm not, try to remove your personal feelings aside and whether you want it or not, and look at it a little more objectively, sort of at the movie, and go, yeah, I can see how this could be modernized. The concepts, the idea, the technology, the special effects, certainly I could see how this could maybe benefit and maybe be really good depending on who you cast as Snake and who's directing it and yada, yada, right? But the others, I can't really. You can do that better? Well, no, we're going to reimagine it as something else. Well, then it's not the others. Anyway, CM says, Dave has come on here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and he's all out of bubblegum. That's right. That's from They Live, right? Rowdy Roddy Piper. Rest in peace, man. Toddsking says, Lee Winnell is on an Escape from New York remake. Yes, I've heard that. The reason why I didn't mention that is because that's sort of been on the table for a couple of years now. That's been going around. And then I think it was going to be his next project, and then it ended up being The Invisible Man. Do we know for sure that Escape from New York is his next project, or is he just attached to it? Because those are two different things, right? Do we know for sure, or is he just attached to it? And, where is it in the realm of development? Is there a script? I'd have to look this up. Is there a script, or is it just is it still in development? But definitely, I know that is on the table. But we can intellectualize that, right? Like, we can see that and go, yeah, like, I see how that makes sense. I see why that would make sense. The others? Really? I mean, listen. Yeah. Anyway, I was going to say something. It's like, shut up, Dave. Sun EL says, hey, Dave, how do you feel about the original Suspiria? Haven't seen it in a while, but I remember liking it, yes, but I haven't seen it in a while, and I haven't seen the remake. I want to see the remake. Michael Myers fan 1001 says, do you know what the first ever remake film was? I don't. That's a very good question. It probably, believe it or not, is not as modern as you think it is. It probably goes back quite a way. But then again, it says, okay, because films back in like the 20s and the 30s and, the silent film era and, into the 40s, there were a lot of plays as well because, the world of film, the world of talkies, the world of pictures, the world of major motion pictures comes from the theater, from the stage. So there were a lot of theater plays and on stage, that were also making the transition into the visual, the motion picture medium, which was cool. So that kind of is a remake there, if you think about it, and that could go back to the 30s or the 40s or the 50s or whatever. But that's remaking a stage play. I think you're talking about like a remake of another film. I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head, but if you do a quick Google search, I'm sure it will come up. At least give you some ideas of what the probability is in terms of well, that's probably, the first one because of this. I suspect that it might even be as far back as the 40s. It could be that far back. It really could be. It really could be. And novels too, let's not forget, right? Of course, that's not really a remake. But yeah, cool stuff. Cool stuff, my man. Cool stuff. Thank you for supporting the channel in that way. Really appreciate it. Just going back, making sure I didn't miss any. No, I did not. Okay, great. Awesome stuff. You guys are awesome helping to support the channel, man. Does not go unappreciated or unnoticed. Let's see here. Yeah, The Others, man. The Others. I love that fucking movie. Last time I watched it was probably about maybe 2 years or so ago. My girlfriend really likes that movie too, and we watched it in my little home theater here. So it was I just love it. The Sting. Have you guys seen The Sting? By the way, The Sting with Robert Shaw and what's his face there? Have you guys seen that? Robert Redford and all that? No? You guys seen The Sting? Let me know. Love that movie. Love The Sting. Love The Sting. The Sting says, "What up, Dave? Not sure if you've seen my if you've seen my comment earlier, so I'll try one more time. The other day, someone brought up Jim Carrey movies. To confirm, yes, Once Bitten is one of his movies. It's like his second film. Was that something we were talking about on another show? Once Bitten? I don't remember that conversation or that question, but I will take your word for it. Very cool. Cool to know. I have heard of the movie. It's a Jim Carrey movie. Cool. Michael Myers fan 1001 says, thoughts on Sacha Baron Cohen? Very intelligent. Very smart. Very talented. That's what I would say. Yeah, for sure. I would love to see him in more dramatic roles. PC Pierce sends in a super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, what's the most unremakable movie of all time? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think, technically anything is remakeable, right? You can remake anything. But I always try to like, as I said earlier in the show, just kind of think, is it necessary from the perspective of, can we do it better? Is it more relevant today? And if it's not, and it's still sort of, it's timeless and it doesn't need, then I would focus my energy on something else, the time on something else, and money on something else. But if I look at it and I go, you know what, nobody's even heard of this movie. I mean, there are very few people that even realize that that Scarface is a remake of a movie from, I think, the 30s. The Al Pacino film is a remake. People don't even realize that True Lies is a remake. True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis is technically a remake of a, it's not an American film. Damn it, I forget which country did it. But, I mean, and a lot of American films get remade, or a lot of foreign films get remade all the time, right? I mean, The Ring was I can always understand that if The Others was okay, The Others is an American movie for all intents and purposes, right? I mean, it's a Spanish film because there's a lot of Spanish, executives and people attached. I mean, it's a co-produced production, I believe, right? Let's see here. I just want to make sure I get this right. And who was the Yes, it's an English language Spanish Gothic. They call it a Gothic supernatural psychological horror film. It's not a bad way to call it. I like the Gothic part because it definitely is. So yeah, definitely a co-produced production. I mean, the music is the director did the music. That's awesome. The director did the music. The cinematography is also somebody who is the crew. Most of the crew was Spanish as well, but some of the money, some of the funding was probably coming from an American production company as well. And of course, it was distributed in the United States by Dimension Films, and it was distributed in Spain by Warner Sage Films, co-produced. I could understand if The Others was a American movie solely. Totally American. American crew, American cast, American money. And they wanted to remake it for a Spanish audience. Okay, I could understand that. Or vice versa. It was a purely Spanish film. Spanish actors, Spanish crew, which it was, but, Spanish actors, everything's in Spanish. If we want to watch it, we got to read the subtitles or no Spanish. And they wanted to remake it for an American audience. That doesn't mean that it's going to be as good, but I can understand that. I get it. Like what they did with The Ring and Ringu, right? Or The Grudge, and things. I get it. And fortunately, The Ring from 2002, in my opinion anyway, was really good. I really liked The Ring. I thought that was a really good American remake of a Japanese film. I like the Japanese film too. But as far as Hollywood remakes of foreign films go, The Ring's pretty good. The original. The sequel's fucking garbage. So I can understand that. Like, countries wanted to, you know what? Those Americans, man, they released this really great movie called The Others, and they produced it, and also, we want to do that. I get that. But other than that, I just don't understand why. Again, there's always reasons from a business and a lucrative perspective. But yeah, I would never, I don't know. DMT Finney says the Ringu. But it's a good question. PC. What's the most unremakeable movie of all time? I don't know. I can think of some movies I don't want remade, like Jaws. Especially when it comes to, again, if there's something that Jaws and The Others have in common, is that the shark is great, but he's irrelevant to the reason why you like that film. And Spielberg fell ass backwards into that. Not to say that he's not genius enough to figure this out, but certainly early on in his filmmaking endeavor with Jaws, we were going to see the shark a lot more. And the shark not working actually helped the movie because we had to rely, or he had to rely on theater of the mind, right? And the POV shots and the bump, 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 and so, that was just so important and so integral to the success of that film, and that theater of the mind, right? But the characters, the reason why I love Jaws is not because of the shark. The shark's cool. Yes. The shark is really important. Don't get me wrong. Without the shark, we don't have a movie. But you are so emotionally attached to the characters, the story. The characters are so well developed. You love Quint. You love Brody, you love Hooper, you love the interaction, the banter. It's a drama. Jaws is a horror. I know it's a horror movie for all intents and purposes, and people call it a horror movie, but it's a real thriller drama. You know what I mean? Like it's the characters are so rich and so great, so grounded, so real. And same with The Others. The Others is not on Jaws' level in that regard, but it's same principle, same kind of thing. Like the ghost thing, like there's more going on there. And so, there's movies I wouldn't want remade because I think they're unnecessary, like Jaws or The Others or I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to think about it a bit more, but I don't think anything's unremakeable, but I certainly think there are things that make no sense to remake. You know what I mean? But hey, I'm not doing it. K316 sends a super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, hey, Dave, have you ever watched Dawn of the Dead from 1978? Oh, yeah, of course. George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead from 78. There was the remake in 2004, I think, which I actually had the chance to see in the theater, which was actually really good. There's a remake that, you see, that's a remake where it's kind of like, it wasn't necessary to remake Dawn of the Dead in 2004. But again, when you look at the 1978 film and you think of where we were in terms of technology and visual effects in the early 2000s, I get it. And when you look at the kind of movie Dawn of the Dead is, it's a zombie apocalyptic, attack movie. I get, like, it's not like it's reliant on some slow burn or theater of the mind. No, it's a fucking zombie movie, and when you get to 2004, at that point, you're 25 years later or almost, you understand. It's like, well, yeah, we have the visual of, we can modernize this and bring it into the 21st century and really make it intense and cool. And I understand that. The others? I'm going to say that for the rest of the show. Hans Gruber says, remake of The Green Mile. Why? Remake The Green Mile? Why? I'm sure you're just busting my balls. And if you're not, Hans, that fall from the Nakatomi Tower has rattled your brain. Remake The Green Mile. It's like saying remake Shawshank. Yeah, he's totally busting my balls. The Sting. It was from a few years ago. It's a horror comedy about vampires. It's awesome. Highly recommend. A quick, fun watch. Be safe. I will check it out. Oh, you know what? I do think I know. Okay. Yep, I'll check it out. Super chat comes in from Frank Riker. Thank you, Frank. Says, I'm ready for a McRant. They're remaking The Green Mile. They're remaking The Green Mile? Wait a minute. They actually are remaking The Green Mile? Get the fuck out of here. Are you serious? Are you fucking serious? Well, I know what I'm talking about on tomorrow's show, if that's true. Why? Are you fucking kidding me? The Green Mile remake. Well, I don't see anything there. Maybe you guys are busting my ball. I hope you are. There is something on IMDb called The Green Mile Remake. Seeing as how we're... I don't know what that even is. That's not even... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, so it's... What? What is this? This is real-time reaction to me. What is this? Seeing as how we are in a... Yeah, I'm wondering if there'll be a... Oh, no, that's from September 2018. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't see it. Where are people hearing that, by the way? Where are people hearing that? Frank's messing with me. Okay, good. I'm glad he is. I'm glad you are. Because, well, I hadn't heard of that. But I was like, really? Really? Because Frank does love my McRages and my McRants. So when he said that, and sometimes it's hard to decipher text, right? You know what I mean? So I was kind of, I knew Hans was. As soon as he said, Shawshank, I was like, well, Hans is. But then when Frank was like, I'm ready for a McRant, they're making the... I was like, oh, maybe they actually are. Maybe they actually are remaking. I gotta fucking check that out. I was about to fucking tear a... I was about to go all Hulk Hogan and tear off my shirt and fucking tear somebody a fuck. I was fucking a fuckity fuck. Beep that out. No monetization for this video. Oh, Frank, my man. Frank, my heart sank. Frank, my heart sank. Let me see here. Darren Sand says, True Lies is a remake of a French comedy. Thank you, Darren. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you, buddy. You can always count on Darren to pipe in there with some great insight. Great stuff. Miss Kintner just died the other day, sadly, 92. She was 92! Miss Kintner, of course, from Jaws. Was it Alex Kintner, I think, or Alec Kintner? Alex, I think it was. Yeah, she was 92. So that means if she was 92 in 2020, so 92, 82, 72, 62, 52, 51, 50, 49, 48, 47. She was only 47 in Jaws. She looked older. Did she not look older than 47 in Jaws? Was she? No. Wait. 47 or 57? No, she'd have to be 47. She's 47 in 1975, right? 47 in 75, 57, 85, 67, 95, 77. No, she was 57, excuse me. I got that wrong. She was 57. I was going back. Because at first I was like, really? Only 47 and 70? No, she was 57. Yeah, because if she was 57... No, what, 57? Yeah, am I saying that right? Fuck, my math is all off now. Again, I was up so late. Let's just find out what year she was born in. Let's just do that. What year was she born? What's her name again? Forget her name now. What's her name? Anyways, the chat room will let me know what year was Mrs. Kintner born? Tell me that. I'm going to say obviously 1920 something. I got that wrong. I think I'm 10 years off. I was going back and I missed a decade. Let me see here. Rika Man. Am I saying that right? Rika Man 85 sends in a super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says I could potential go for a Phantasm remake. I can see the argument. I can certainly see the argument for it. 100%. I can definitely see the argument for it. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. Really appreciate that. She was 157. That's funny. That's so funny. Let's do this. Da, da, da. Ba 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 ba. Be ba 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 ba. Oh, there she is. She was born 1929. So 10, 20, 30, 40. No, she was 47. I was right. She was 47. I was right. Or 46. 46, let's say. 46. Or 45. Wow, she looked a lot older than that. She looked a lot older than that. I hate to say that, but and the person who was playing her husband looked like he was 180. Unless that was her father in the movie. You know, the one that sort of takes her aside and takes her away from Brody. Wow, so she really was. Yeah, daughters at 1929. So that means she was 10 and 39, right? We're doing math here, folks. 10 and 39, 20 and 49, 30 and 59, 40 and 69, right? And then you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more years to 75, 74 when they're shooting it. She was like 45 years old. Wow, she looked a lot older than that. Man, I hate to say it, she did. I thought she looked like she was in her late 50s, early 60s. I mean, not like old, but she, I don't know, just maybe the way she, and her husband that was there looked like he was 190. Like, am I missing that? Is her husband on IMDb here? Let's find this out. Who the fuck was her husband? I don't think he had a name. I don't think he had a name. Maybe he's in the, fuck yeah, I won't be able to find this on the spur of the moment. But her husband looked like 180. From what I remember, I don't know. Super chat comes in from Sun L. Thank you so much, Sun L, for supporting the channel like that. Dave, although I disagree with every fucking thing you ever say, I'm just I'm just busting your balls, man. Dave, although I disagree with your thoughts on the 2018 film, I think the filmmakers showed they cared a lot. They cared a lot. You did change my views of the 78 film. I love it more now than I used to. Keep it up, man. Oh, I agree. I hope nobody's ever thought that I don't think that David Gordon Green and Danny McBride and everybody involved that were, not caring about it. Of course, as I've said 1,000 times, nobody goes out with the intention of making a bad movie. There's just creative choices that I disagree with. There's creative choices that had I been in charge, I would not have written the story that way. That doesn't necessarily even mean, and that also could mean, I should say, that I would not have been, that my story would not have been approved, right? But there's just creative choices that David Gordon Green, that Blumhouse made, that I just don't agree with. But at any point, at any time, did I ever, and again, I'm not necessarily saying that you are saying this, but I just want to be clear. I've never at any point, at any time, said that I don't believe they were putting their best foot forward, that I think they didn't care. They didn't care, and that's why the movie turned out the way it did. No, the movie is a well-produced film. It turned out the way it did because that's what they wanted to do. They believed in what they were telling. There were just creative things that I did not agree with. And that's why I didn't like the movie as much as some. But certainly, yeah. Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Yep, for sure, man. Another super chat comes in from Billy Van. Says, let's make a Dave McCrae movie or short film starring the H5 Myers, Busta Rhymes, and Dave McCrae. I would spend my life fortune on that. Well, I would much rather, if you have a life fortune to spend on that, I would much rather you give me your life fortune for It's Me, Billy. Because, hey, but you go out and make that movie. You go out and make a movie, cast somebody as me. Hey, folks, how you doing? Dave McCrae here. Cast somebody as me and make the Busta Rhymes, Dave McCrae, H5 Myers movie. That would be funny. That would be funny, man. Thank you for supporting the channel. Really appreciate it. PC Pierce says, Dave, any movies you don't like but often watch? I got this question before, too. I don't know if it was you that asked this or somebody else asked this a few weeks ago, excuse me, or maybe it was last week. Somebody said something to the effect of, Dave, what movie do you absolutely despise, but you watch, or something to that effect? And I was like, well, none. I don't watch movies I fucking hate. Why would I watch them? I don't like them. I think what you mean, though, is sort of, if I could, and I'm not saying you mean this, but if I could steer your question to something that I think is a little more digestible, is maybe guilty pleasure movies, that movies that are generally thought of as not very good movies, or movies that there's a general consensus that it's kind of like, that's not a very good film, but for whatever reason you know like it, or it makes you feel, you know, it's a comfort movie, or you know, whatever the case is. For me, I would say some of those movies would be I would say and this isn't really, I think this, and I say this film only because when it came out, it wasn't very well received. It wasn't kind of a big thing, but The Burbs with Tom Hanks. Now, people, it seems to have, it has more of a following now and more of an appreciation now than it did when it came out in 1989. But I've always liked that movie, even when people were like, "Oh, The Burbs, man, not one of Tom Hanks." I always really liked that movie a lot. But I don't think there is any movies I don't like but often watch, because that doesn't make any sense. Right? Are there restaurants that serve food you really don't like, but you visit all the time? No. Why would you go to a restaurant? No. Why? And if you do, something a little strange with you. Something a little strange with you. Let me see here. Galford's Dog says, Dave, would you like to see Christopher Guest play Ben Tramer in Halloween Ends, or maybe Angela Pleasance play Loomis' daughter? Keep these things in the family, I say. Well, it all depends on whether or not these two individuals have any sort of acting experience if their life depended on them. Are they currently represented? You know, are they actors? I mean, or are they just, I mean, I certainly don't want them in there if they don't have an acting bone in their body, that's for sure. I think the idea of introducing a child that maybe Dr. Loomis had is interesting, but I also don't want it to be convenient where it's like, oh, it's the son of Dr. Loomis is introduced and he happens to be wearing a trench coat and is also a psychiatrist. Oh, very interesting. No, I think it would be much more believable and palpable if Dr. Loomis had a kid, okay, but his kid it didn't follow in his father's footsteps. His kid lives, I don't know, his kid is a cook for some restaurant in Chicago, you know, or something like that. I don't know. You know, I think it's, of course, his kid now would probably be in his 70s. It's true. If you think about that, if Dr. Loomis had a kid, that kid would be like in his 60s at least, you know, and then he's the new Loomis. It's like, nah, it's a little sort of cliche. And no. I think it's more believable if he has a kid and the kid is just some normal guy, you know, who gets caught up in it against his better judgment, or he gets caught up in it through a process of things that are out of his control. Because he's not his grandfather or his father, and he doesn't have anything to do with it, but it's almost like fate brings him there. But he's not running around in a fucking beige trench coat with a goatee with a gun going, Michael, it's the son of... No, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. Zach Frederick says, Dave, which one do you like better? Silent Night, Bloody Night from 72 or Silent Night, Deadly Night from 84? I haven't seen the Silent Night, Bloody Night from 72, but I have seen the Silent Night, Deadly Night from 84. And, you know, it's one of those movies that it's not a good movie, but it's one of those movies that came out during the slasher boom in the early to mid 80s. And certainly it's watchable and it's fun and it's got some cheesy moments in it. And it's the kind of movie that you can just kind of throw on in the background and go about your business at home. But I haven't seen the 1972 film there. I would have to watch that. Let me go back and make sure I didn't... Nope, PC Pierce was the last one. Dave, although I disagree with you... Okay. I could potentially Phantasm remake. Okay, I got him. Yeah. Hey, look at you guys talking amongst each other. I love it. Let me see. Nick sends in a super chat. Hey, Nick, how you doing, buddy? Wolfen would make for a great remake. Thoughts? Wolfen? I've never heard of this movie. Or maybe I have, and I'm just drawing a brain fart. Wolfen. Are you talking Wolfen? Oh, Wolf movie 1981. I have heard of this movie because I recognize the poster. Okay, Wolfen. All right. I was thinking maybe it was, well, I think it is. Maybe it's short for Wolfenstein, but I thought you were talking about United One American Horror Film Director. I don't know if I've seen this movie. Have I seen this movie? It's almost like a... Interesting. I want to watch this movie now. Because I'm not entirely sure that I've seen this movie. I want to watch this movie. Very interesting. I definitely want to see this movie. So I don't know. I don't know if it deserves a remake or not, man, because, or it could benefit from one, because I don't know if I've even seen it. So, yeah, interesting. I'm going to have to check that out. Corey Dean says, why do you think Tobe Hooper went from a classic like TCM to TCM2 with all the ridiculous comedy? I don't know. I really think, look, Tobe Hooper has given us, three, I would say, classic horror movies. One being so strangely, incredibly good that I tend to lean more with the consensus that, and I talked about this the other day on Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, that Spielberg had more to do with Poltergeist than those of you, or than those people would that say no, that's not true, would lead you to believe. Like I said, I don't think Spielberg would ever throw his professional counterpart Tobe Hooper under the bus. That's not his style. He is the utmost professional. He would never do that. But do I believe the crew members that have come forward over the years and said, listen, Tobe Hooper was there for sure. It's not like he didn't do anything, but Spielberg was very much involved creatively. He wrote the screenplay. He produced the movie. It was his to direct, but he didn't because of a potential looming director strike. He was in the middle of, E.T. And I think that Poltergeist has Spielberg. That feels like a Spielberg movie. It does. When you watch Tobe Hooper's other films, it's like, what? Like, it's a very different feeling to the movies than you get when you watch Poltergeist. And again, do not misunderstand me. I am not taking anything away from Tobe Hooper in terms of his talent or in terms of what he has given the horror genre. But he spent most of his career, the vast majority of his career, in the B-movies, essentially. And Poltergeist was an anomaly when you look at his filmography, and a strange one, that it's almost like there's got to be something else there. And again, that's not to say that he didn't direct it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he didn't direct it, and he wasn't there calling shots, saying things, doing this, do that. But there's more to it. There's more to it. So I'm going to say, listen, if Poltergeist didn't exist, if Poltergeist was directed, it was common knowledge. It was directed by Steven Spielberg. It says directed by Steven Spielberg, a Steven Spielberg film. It's one of his greatest cinematic directing achievements. Then your question there, I don't think would be strange. Because when you look, strange in the sense of maybe comedy, but when you look at Tobe Hooper's filmography, it's like, no, I think what's so strange is that after Poltergeist, he does Texas Chainsaw 2. Like, what the fuck? How is that even the same director? And it's not like, directors don't have bad days at the office. I'm not saying that, but he was never able to achieve anything close to Poltergeist ever again. And so I don't know. I'm not saying that Tobe Hooper's overrated. I'm not saying that. I just think that there's a funny thing when it comes to his filmography. There's just a funny sort of thing about it. But I like the first Texas Chainsaw. I like Salem's Lot, which was really good. And I like Poltergeist. Obviously, one of the greatest supernatural horror movies in motion picture history. That's holy shit, Toby. And then, of course, I didn't mind the Toolbox Murders, I think it was called. Was that what it's called? The Toolbox Murders? I thought it was kind of fun. You know, chintzy, but fun. Darren Sand says, Wolfen is superb. Great 80s werewolf movie. I got to check it out. I got to check it out and see if I've seen this thing. Because sometimes I'll watch old movies and be like, oh, I've seen this. I can't remember. I cannot remember Ladies and Germs. Nick asked a super chat. Was that the one that you asked about Wolfen? It was. Okay. It was. All right, we'll take this thing to 12:30, ladies and gents. 12:30. Let me see here. Neil Rook says, if H2O would have taken place in Haddonfield, do you think you would have enjoyed it better? Same story, just set in Haddonfield. Same story, just in Haddonfield. No, I don't think so. I mean, you might have been... When in Haddonfield? Is it still... You know, well, no, I guess it'd be Halloween. It'd be Halloween, of course. Well, I think that's better. You know, then there might be certain things about the movie that are, you know, it feels a little more autumn, feels a little more Halloween. But if everything else is the same, the mask situation, I'm you know me, I'm very picky. I'm very, very picky. So that's a start. But there's a lot of things you still have to do with that movie. So I don't know if saying I would like the movie better. Probably not. Tiger Man says, what about remaking Cujo? Good or bad idea? I think Cujo, no, I think that actually is something that the problem with remaking Cujo is that I could see them wanting to use a CGI dog. And we don't want, listen, Harrison Ford's my favorite actor of all time, right? But and I haven't seen the movie, but when I saw the trailer for Into the Wild, I think it is, or whatever it is there, oh my God. And completely unnecessary. Completely and utterly unnecessary. That, I can't help but feel that was only done to, yes, save money, obviously, you know, and the logistics of working with a dog obviously is more difficult. When you have a human dressed in a green jumpsuit pretending to be a dog, it's always easier because you can reason with that person. They understand what you're saying. I get it. I understand it. And of course you forego any backlash you may get from PETA, you know. But my God, I just don't think we're there. Like, I could understand using CGI for the dog in certain moments, like when the dog has to jump off a cliff or jump onto the raft or what. Yeah, okay, I get it. But just when you're sitting in a room talking to the dog, we're not there. We are not advanced enough yet in that area to convince me that is a real dog. The uncanny valley in that is fucking weird. And it makes me feel strange. And it took me out of the trailer. And when I saw that a new Harrison Ford movie was coming out, I usually always go see Harrison Ford in the movie theater because it's Harrison Ford. And, you know, he's not going to be around much longer. And he's a legend, you know, my favorite actor. But when I saw the trailer to that movie, I was like, I don't want to go see this. My girlfriend was like, you know, you want to go see it? You know, it's Harrison Ford. And I was like, I know, but I'm just gonna have to wait. I can't. It's going to take me out of it. And I hear that it's actually a really good movie. I hear that it's actually pretty good, which actually disappoints me even more and makes me think, oh, why, you know, like, anyway. But that wasn't the question. The question was, where was the question again? Oh my goodness. See, I go off on these tangents. The question was about, don't worry, I'm going to find it. Where is it here? The question was, yes, about remaking Cujo, right? So that would be my worry, that they're going to CGI Cujo, and nobody wants that. I mean, listen, if there's one thing that is really awesome about that mid-'80s movie is they used a real St. Bernard. I think it was a St. Bernard, right? Yeah. And like, fuck, like you can actually feel it. You can feel it, especially when the dog's got the blood on his fur and face, and it's like, fuck, like that movie still still holds up today. But I could understand why you may want to remake it. I can understand it, but I have no confidence that it would be better than the original. Because look what happened with Pet Sematary. You know what I mean? But I could understand why you may want to. But if you're, listen, if the mindset is let's remake Cujo and use a CGI dog, fuck off with that shit. Don't do that. Don't do that. There is no way. Yeah, but we could have the dog do all sorts of cool things. And yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. So you know what? I'm going to say bad idea. I'm going to say bad idea because I just don't have confidence that they'll do it. Do it right, whatever that means. Toronto Freddy sends a super chat. Thank you so much, Toronto Freddy, for supporting the channel. I'll never understand why they recreated the ending from 78 for the beginning of 81. Why didn't they just use the footage from 78 and just add on to it? I just think it was so unnecessary. I never understood that either. I never understood why they why at the beginning of Halloween 2 they reshot it, or if they didn't reshoot it, they used an alternate take, which is more likely probably what happened, because when you watch the end, there's a certain part that is reshot, and there's a certain part that I think is an alternate take. At the end of the original Halloween 1978, Laurie says, "Now I want you to listen to me. I want you to go down the street. I want you to go down I want you to go down the stairs, out the front door, down the street. I want you to go to Mackenzie's house, and I want you to tell them to call the police and send them over here, okay? Yeah, okay. Just go do as I say, blah, blah, blah," right? That's what she sounds like, because she's all like, "I want you to go down the street. I want you to go," because she's scared, right? And the kids are like, "Yeah, okay." At the beginning of Halloween 2 from 1981, they show that exact scene again. I don't think they reshot that. I think it may be an alternate take, but it's definitely, it's either reshot or an alternate take, because Laurie says, I think at the beginning of the 82 film, as the kids are leaving, she says, "Go." And she doesn't say that at the end of the 78 film, or vice versa. She does say it at the end of the 78 film, and she doesn't say it at the beginning of the 81 film. One of the two, but there's a go. There's an extra line in there that is not in one of the two movies. So it's either an alternate take or they reshot it. I don't see I tend to lean that it's probably an alternate take. Because Michael still sits up the same way, does the head turn like that. That I don't think was reshot. But I never understood why they reshot. I mean, again, I understand why, but seeing, and I assume it was Dick Warlock, coming out through the doors and falling off the balcony. It's a cool shot, right? Like, it is cool, but if you look closely, you can tell he's on a ramp. Because when he falls off the balcony, it's so funny. And we don't notice these things back in the day, but when you watch it 5,000 times, Dick's feet, okay, Dick Warlock's feet, if it is him, which I think it's him because he's a stunt guy, so I don't see why he wouldn't have done that stunt on his own, are completely level with the railing of the balcony. So it's so funny. It's like, if this is the railing, I'll take this Sharpie, right? Here's the railing, and we would be standing here like this, looking over the railing. Well, his feet are not like this. They're like this. They're like this. They're completely level with the railing. He's on a ramp, and he goes up the ramp like this, and then he just falls off the balcony. It's funny. He doesn't hit the balcony and then go over. He just kind of like he's level. Like it's so weird. It's so strange. And I don't see why that's actually necessary. Yeah, it's cool to see him coming out, and obviously they wanted to make it their own and write something. Okay, fine. But you could have just used the ending of the first movie and shown him, you could have done that. Yeah, there's some things that were not necessary. I think the funniest thing, actually, and I would never have done this. I don't know if you didn't think of this shit I never would have approved this, is seeing Michael's fucking like chalk outline on the grass. It's comical to me. And this is coming from somebody who loves the 81 movie. I don't think it's as good as the first movie. Way far inferior, way far. But I like that movie. I do. I love that movie. Comical. This outline, unnecessary. You don't need to show anything. All you need to show is that he's just not there. And then when Dr. Loomis goes over to the spot where he was or where he would have been and puts his hand on the grass, that's when he lifts. It's like there's blood. It tells you he was here. You don't need to show an outline telling us he was there. We know he's gone. We've seen the other movie, right? Let the blood, and think of how much more powerful. It's already powerful because Loomis just possesses that kind of on-screen presence. But think of how more powerful it would have been if we don't see a funny little chalk type like outline. There's no chalk there, but I'm just saying like it looks hilarious. We don't see that. It's just he's gone. The body's just not there on the grass. Think of how powerful and how more awesome it would have been if he's like, what the fuck? And he goes over to it and then he goes like this and there's blood on the hand. Oh my, telling you, oh, he was there. You know what I mean? Like, that is awesome shit. You know, you don't need his funny little impression, like the snow angel impression. I never understood that. Lie on the ground, because that tells me that it doesn't make sense, because it tells me that he was lying there for what, 6 days? Like, you know, lie on the grass and then get up. Lie on the grass for, 30 seconds, then get up. Is there this impression there? No, there's no impression there. If you lie on the grass for a couple of hours, there might be, but certainly not for like 30 seconds. Yeah, I never understood that. Funny stuff, man. Funny stuff. Frank Riker sends in a super chat. Thank you, Frank, and says, Dave just got done ice fishing with John Carpenter off Hawaii. Fascinating. That's a interesting dichotomy there. And he told me how Halloween ends. Apparently, Michael is electrocuted to death by Bucky's ghost. John then told me to fuck off. Amazing! That would be amazing, Frank. Amazing to be, that'd be, I can always count on Frank and Darren Sands, by the way. I don't know if Darren is still in the room to dish out some witty banter. But Frank, man, you are the king of, just amazing for how Frank gets around. He gets around. And by the way, Frank, I did get your message on Patreon. I just haven't had a chance to respond to it yet, but I did get it. And I will respond as soon as I can. That's so funny. Ice fishing off the coast of Africa, and Michael Myers, folks, is electrocuted by Bucky's ghost. Can you imagine? Oh, why the hell not? Why the hell not, ladies and germs? Why the hell not? Funny stuff. Hey, it's 12:33. Hey, listen, that is going to do it for me for episode 40 of MCRAE Live. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. You're awesome. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for all the questions as usual. I really do appreciate it. It keeps these shows going, folks. It keeps these shows going. I'll be back tomorrow morning on MCRAE Live, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, same bat time, same bat channel. Don't forget to tune in if you can. Stay safe, folks. It ain't easy, man. I hear you. It ain't easy. It's a crazy time right now that we are in, but definitely stay safe out there. And questions that I didn't get to today or you didn't have answered today, feel free to ask them again tomorrow, and maybe I will see it and answer it. So, in the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. Alrighty. Cheers.